On Tech News Today, the rocket company owned by Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos launches a rocket into space, then lands it gently back on Earth. Plus, Apple is getting ready to launch Apple Pay in China. And Snapchat lets you view major events from several viewpoints. It's like, hashtags or something. It's all coming up next on Tech News Today.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CacheFly at CacheFly.com.
This is Tech News Today for Tuesday, November 24th, 2015. This episode is brought to you by PillPack, a full-service pharmacy that combines personalized service, convenient packaging, and modern technology to make your life easier. Visit PillPack.com/twit to save $20 on vitamins and OTCs when you transfer your prescriptions. Tech News Today is the show where we talk about the tech news with the journalists who report it. My name is Mike Elgan, and our co-anchor today is Politico tech reporter Zoya Sheftalovich. Zoya, welcome to Tech News Today.
Thanks, Mike. I made it. I finally made it.
You did. In fact, we had some Skype troubles, as is often the case before the show. And finally, through perseverance and the miracle of the smartphone revolution, and Jason, of course, who's doing victory laps over there, we finally actually got you connected. Now, was it my imagination? You're in Brussels. Was it my imagination, or was there a lot of cat photos coming out of Belgium over the weekend?
So many cat photos, Mike. Photos, rather. It is a deluge. So we've had a bit of a lockdown situation since Saturday morning. The public transport hasn't been working, and there have been loads of anti-terror raids around the city. And the police appealed over the weekend for people to stop tweeting about where the police patrols were and what their operational details were. So a few people thought that they would start tweeting cat pictures instead, and it kind of set off a bit of a deluge of cat lols.
Yeah, it's awesome. Absolutely awesome. And I think that's the right response to terrorism, warm and fuzzy mammals. So that's my favorite right there.
Yeah.
We're looking at a cat
relax,
with
my
cucumbers.
friends.
Yeah, cucumbers over her eyes and so on. All right. Very nice. Great job, Belgium, for standing up to terror with the feline kingdom. Really fun stuff. I had a lot of fun with that over the weekend. Now, let's jump into our top story. This is an amazing story, people. Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos' rocket company, Blue Origin, successfully completed a huge milestone yesterday. The company launched a rocket into space, which then returned to Earth and landed ever so gently on the ground. The company also made a cinematic marketing video. Let's take a look at their video. And so we're looking at the launch facility, a bunch of trained and licensed professionals getting this thing ready for launch, wearing appropriate protective gear.
Good. Forward fin check good. Aft fin check good.
So this is a pretty small rocket compared to some of the gigantic rockets that have gone into space recently.
9.
There's Jeff Bezos in the control room.
7, 6, 5.
Now, this isn't owned by Amazon.com. This is owned by Jeff Bezos himself.
Ignition. And liftoff.
Now, this video begins and ends, I'll give you a preview here, with actual footage of the launch and the landing. And in between is a little infomercial for one of the businesses that they're going to be looking at for these rockets. Which, by the way, they intend to commercialize within 2 years.
PM confirmed separation.
Okay, so there's separation. So the very end of this rocket, which looks like what does it look like? It's like a little dome. Yeah, a little capsule thing. Is in space. People are kind of looking out the window. It's got lots of windows. Great view. And it says a life-changing adventure is coming soon. We're going to be talking about that life-changing adventure in just a minute.
Touchdown.
Okay, so the actual capsule comes down with parachutes and lands on the ground. And now the rocket that boosted the capsule into space is coming down in reverse, and it's basically igniting its thrusters. It's kind of weaving back and forth a little bit.
LGS deploy.
That music is not actually coming from the rocket.
50 feet, 7 feet per second.
And it lands. And then we're going to get multiple views of the landing here. And you can keep playing that, Jason. We're going to go ahead and introduce our guest today. John Wenz wrote about the event for Popular Mechanics and joins us now. John Wenz, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Mike.
Appreciate it. Now, why is landing a rocket like this such a big deal?
Because it can usher in an age of reusability in rockets, which is something that has been absent in the time in which we've been launching rockets, since the 50s and 60s, where we've been actually managing to get them up into space and get them up into orbit. We've never had a reusable rocket. We've had reusable rocket parts, but never a full-scale first-stage reusability. And so this is a big deal that Blue Origins has accomplished this, because SpaceX has been trying for years. And they've managed to do some landings with their Grasshopper rockets, but it's never been a full suborbital flight. The Blue Origins rocket is not one that will go into full orbit. It's, as you can see from the video, it's a demonstration of just kind of going up on a parabolic arc, releasing the capsule comes back down, but the rocket itself comes back down as well.
And why does Jeff Bezos want a space program? Like, what's the business he's in here? Where's the gain?
That's almost as mysterious as Blue Origins. It just kind of seems to keep coming up when he has the accomplishments, but the company's still kind of under a veil of secrecy, so it's hard to tell exactly what their game plan is. They have one foot in space tourism and trying to be kind of a Virgin Galactic style flight, while they also have another arm of their industry in, the United Launch Alliance rockets, trying to replace the Russian boosters that can no longer be used because of, international embargoes against Russia. And so it seems to be a kind of chameleon-like space business, wherein he has one foot within space tourism, but he's also, doing these other kinds of launches that have to do with heavier lift and satellites and, potential crew missions. So it's kind of this strange mixture of what he's out there trying to do.
Now, the company has intimated that they could be in commercial use within 2 years. If we assume that there are two businesses here, one of them is ferrying supplies and or astronauts to the space station, the other one is space tourism, where I assume, if that video is an indication, they're going to blast tourists into a 60 miles up or whatever, and then then they can land again with the parachutes. Which of those businesses is harder? Which of those two businesses is most likely to be in play within 2 years?
I think that within 2 years, we're more going to see the components of rockets that are going to build as part of the United Launch Alliance's Vulcan rocket, where that's going to be an easier sell because they're building one part of a larger system. And the United Launch Alliance is, Lockheed and Boeing working together. So there are other parts, and they're just fulfilling the role of a manufacturer that can no longer be used that was intended for this rocket. But it's going to be a harder sell for a system that is a little more standalone, that, the rocket scene there is all just Blue Origin. That's what they're doing. They're doing this rocket. They're taking it up on the parabolic arc. The capsule's coming back down. And while there's been a lot of talk of space tourism and some variations of it that have actually taken place, there's been visitors who have bought a seat on a Soyuz rocket. We've yet to see a full-scale deployment of it from a private company aboard their private rockets in a private vehicle. So that's going to be, I think, a little bit of the tougher sell, just because we're not there yet. And there were some significant setbacks with the Virgin Galactic crash of last year.
And there was another milestone yesterday. We saw the first tweet from the same Jeff Bezos. What was he tweeting about, and what do you expect from him on Twitter?
I have no idea what to expect from him on Twitter until he has had the account for 7 years. This is his first tweet. I made a joke that I think he just had an egg avatar until yesterday, probably. So I have no idea what we're going to be able to expect out of him on social media, if this is something that can be used. But I mean, I know this morning I checked and he had something around 3,000 followers. I checked probably an hour or two ago and it was up to like 13,000 followers. So we'll see if he actually capitalizes on that. But I don't think he's in a position that he necessarily needs to. So it may just be another pipeline for his successes, whether it's in Amazon, whether it's in Blue Origin, whatever it may be. It may just be, kind of quick cryptic announcements, just like the one tweet he's posted so far that was the link to this successful test flight.
What a mic-dropping moment, though. His first ever tweet is like, oh, I just did something NASA can't do. So I'll be back again with another tweet when I cure cancer. So very cool. What an ego on this guy. But he's doing some great work, so I'm all for it. He also owns the Washington Post, by the way. He's doing a lot with his billions. John Wenz is at popularmechanics.com, and you can find him on Twitter at John Wenz. Wenz is spelled W-E-N-Z. John, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me.
We got some more news coming right up, but first I want to talk about our sponsor today, which is PillPack. What is PillPack? PillPack, according to Fortune magazine, is the pharmacy of the future. That's right. They're applying all kinds of really amazing technology to making the whole experience of getting your medications, your vitamins, and your over-the-counter medications much easier, much more reliable, much safer, and much more affordable. And they're doing it with all kinds, as I said, with great technology, including robotics, including machine learning. They've really figured out how to combine people who are professional pharmacists with robots, with advanced computing, to make sure that your prescriptions are put together into individualized packets. And then they send you essentially a roll of these packets, and you tear off at the time that's clearly printed and date that's clearly printed right on each packet. And inside that packet is all of your prescription medications for that time of day, all of your vitamins, everything that you are supposed to take at that time of day. And this is a great, great service, in part because, some type of prescription medications can kind of knock you out a little bit. Some painkillers, for example, can make you feel a little groggy or whatever, and maybe you're forgetting whether you took something or whatever. This keeps it very, very clear. And also printed on each packet, in addition to the exact time and date that you're supposed to take it, is exactly what's in there. So you're constantly being informed and reminded of exactly what you're taking. So you maintain a sense of awareness about what is actually going on with your prescriptions. It also prevents you from having to go to the pharmacy and waiting in line. So there's a really great practical benefit. And you might think, well, this is going to be expensive because I have to pay for shipping. No, shipping is always free. There is no extra cost beyond your standard copay for medications. One of the parts that I like best about this is that they coordinate everything between your doctor and your insurance company. They handle all that stuff for you. And so you just simply transfer your prescriptions over to PillPack, and they will take care of all that stuff behind the scenes to make sure everything works exactly the way it's supposed to. Now, signing up is super easy. It takes just 5 minutes on their very secure site. And they take care of everything. This is one of the Time Magazine's top 25 inventions of 2014. It's a brilliant invention, and it's the application of machine learning and robotics and a lot of intelligent planning and design to disrupting the whole pharmaceutical industry and for your benefit. Here's what I want you to do. Just go to pillpack.com/twit to sign up now. And when you use our link and transfer your prescription to PillPack, you get a credit for $20 worth of vitamins and over-the-counter medications. That's pillpack.com/twit. And we thank them for their support of Tech News Today. An exclusive on Motherboard reports that Amazon may be running a secret air cargo operation called Aerosmith, of all things. Kerry Paul wrote about the story for Motherboard and joins us now. Welcome to the show, Kerry.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being on. Great exclusive. Now, what do we know so far about Aerosmith? Not the band, the secret air cargo program.
Well, what we know is that it is a trial air cargo operation out of Wilmington, Ohio, that started in September. They've contracted 4 767s, 2 from ABX Air, and 2 from another airline. And so that is what we've confirmed, is that it has been underway on a trial basis, flying to 4 different hubs out of Wilmington, Ohio.
And why is Amazon doing this?
I think it's been pretty apparent over the last few years that shipping costs are a big issue for Amazon. It's one of its biggest costs that it sinks a lot of money into every year. No matter what type of deal you have with FedEx or UPS, I know they're a huge customer of them. You're going to be spending a lot of money when that's your main one of your main costs. So anytime you can get that down is good for Amazon.
Why do you think they're keeping it a secret? I mean, it seems like this is something they'd want to brag about.
I think it puts their relationships with FedEx and UPS probably at a strain. It's not yet apparent if they're trying to supplement their pre-existing logistics operations with UPS and FedEx, or if they're just completely making their own huge logistics empire like the rumor was. So it's not clear exactly what they're doing, but if they were to do their own logistics company and even lease that out to other places, they would obviously be a direct competition with their current partners. So I think that's why they're being pretty secretive about it. And that's the statement that they gave to me, is that they plan on, keeping their relationship with UPS.
And did they say anything about whether this was going to be the beginning of a warehouse to home delivery operation?
They did not. Amazon has not, they've declined to confirm to me that they are behind this. They also won't deny it on the record either. So it's kind of unclear what exactly this is going into, but they did tell me that they are continually working on making delivery faster. That's been something that's been apparent for a while now, trying to get hour delivery, under hour delivery. And they've been doing a lot of different new investments in that regard. I mean, even in New York, they're having people take packages on the subway to people's houses and things like that. So
I think it's very clear that Amazon would like to do their own delivery and not rely on UPS and other companies because, of course, they want to get it faster. They want it to be more reliable. And they also have these incredible spikes, during the holidays. They have to compete with everybody else who's sending everything else. And that can be, as you pointed out in your article a couple of years ago, that was a real problem for their deliveries. And of course, they're pioneering delivery drones, which is a, sort of truck to front porch kind of delivery system. So they're on the back end, they're on the front end, and this cargo is sort of somewhere in the middle. It sounds to me like they're getting closer and closer and edging toward doing the whole thing themselves. And I think that'd make a lot of sense. I think so much of the delivery of products is actually from Amazon to homes and businesses that it would make sense for them to do that. But probably not initially everywhere, probably just in major cities in the beginning.
Right.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, Kerry Paul is at motherboard.vice.com, and you can find her on Twitter at Kerry_Paul. Kerry, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
All right, bye-bye. Years ago, tech companies were laggards in the lobbying of government, barely spending anything on influencing regulators, members of Congress, and other politicians. But now, even small startups are lobbying heavily. Cecilia Kong writes for the New York Times and joins us now. Welcome to the show, Cecilia.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
Thanks for coming on. Appreciate it. Now, you wrote about the on-demand butler startup Hello Alfred as an example of a startup that's heavily involved in politics and policy. Can you talk a little bit about what that startup does in this regard?
Sure. Hello Alfred is just about a year old, and it was founded by two women who graduated from Harvard Business School, and they soon became sort of investment as well as little darlings within the Silicon Valley community, in that they won awards for most likely to succeed tech startups, those kinds of things. So they won a TechCrunch award as well. And soon they found themselves embroiled in a pretty contentious and very sort of the moment debate on labor policies and where these sharing economy, so-called sharing economy or on-demand companies fit within this debate. Because these companies with their many, many contract workers have in many ways sort of upended, or at least given us pause to rethink our notions of what it means to be an employee, what it means to be just a worker, and how a company, a employer, if you will, should provide care for their workforce. And so Hello Alfred found themselves in sort of this debate as to whether a company like theirs, which has a bunch of mostly part-time workers, what sort of obligations do they have? Uber, Airbnb, Lyft, a lot of these sharing economy companies are all sort of grappling with this question today.
about the mixed reality company Magic Leap? Why are they lobbying? They don't even have a product yet.
Right. So, and this company is very stealth right now. It's gotten a lot of investments from Google, to name one investor. It does not have a product on the market yet. It's been heavily involved in R&D. It's based in Orlando, Florida. And we don't know actually why they're lobbying. And when I contacted them, they said they're not really ready to talk to the press yet. But they do have hired lobbyists. They're in the field, generally known as augmented reality, which is sort of a different shade of virtual reality. You can say it's a different sort of technology, but it's a very new sort of way to display video content. And they are already here, and they've already hired some lobbyists. The Franklin Square Group is just one of them, to at least tell lawmakers and regulators about the product, even though there isn't really a product on the market yet. So that shows you just how early they're, how eager startups are to come here at a point early within their life cycle, so they establish relationships. And so when there is a time when there are questions about the company, they will have already relationships in place, and they'll know who to talk to, and people will have here in Washington, will have a level of familiarity with the companies as well.
Now, you wrote about Coinbase. I would imagine that the various startups around in the same category as Coinbase and the digital and virtual currencies are going to be doing a lot of lobbying. Is that the case across the board, or is it just Coinbase?
I think you're seeing that from any of the new payment startups that are coming, as well as digital currency startups. There is even a sort of small niche trade group dedicated to fintech, and one just to Bitcoin companies here in Washington. And you're seeing, and that's more of an obvious type of segment of the tech industry that will need to lobby, because their businesses cut across so many different regulatory concerns, particularly when it comes to finance, one of the most heavily regulated industries in the country. Once these tech firms, with their digital currencies and their platforms and the different services that they provide related to finance, come out with their products, they will of course be under the watch of regulators. So those are companies that I think are very obviously motivated to lobby early. Coinbase, payment startups like Apple Pay, Google Pay, Square, they've been here for a while, and they've been trying to make relationships and lobbying on their behalf and their causes at the CFPB, Treasury, other departments.
And do you know if the lobbying is working at this point? Are they getting what they want? Are there results?
It's hard to say. And if you talk to a lot of these companies, they're often lobbying on issues where there isn't even a legislative a proposed bill on hand, like sharing economy in the labor market. That's a great example. There's no proposed bill on the market right now on redefining or reclassifying sharing economy workers as employees or not. There's nothing like that. There are definitely some legislative and some regulatory discussion and potential for pieces of that economy. But it's early to say. Again, I think one of the most interesting things about these companies coming so early in their life cycle is that a lot of this really is just relational. It is creating goodwill. It is making sure that people know who Snapchat is and feels good about Snapchat. They know who Hello Alfred is, and they feel sort of good about Hello Alfred. A lot of this is marketing.
And I think it's a great idea, too, because, of course, Congress tends to be a few years behind Silicon Valley in terms of accepting new technologies, new ideas, new business models, and so on. So this familiarity will help them. In the case of Magic Leap, I would also hazard to guess that they're going to be looking for government contracts in their work, because this is going to be a high-end technology that will be great for military training, for all kinds of things. So that could be part of it as well. Cecilia Kong is at nytimes.com and on Twitter at Cecilia Kong. Cecilia, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Mike.
Bye-bye. The Wall Street Journal is reporting in an exclusive that Apple wants to launch Apple Pay in China in February. The company has reportedly made deals with all 4 of China's government-owned banks. Apple Pay is currently available in the U.S., the U.K., Canada, and Australia. So this would be the first non-English speaking country for Apple Pay. And of course, Zoya, there are lots of mobile payment solutions in play in China. This may be an uphill battle for Apple, but if they can pull it off, of course, this is the world's most populous country, and they'll probably make a fortune.
Absolutely. In China, I mean, it's a pretty competitive market with local payment options as well. So I think they're going to have a bit of a hard time making sure that everything goes smoothly, especially because there are some regulatory hurdles that they're going to come across. I know that there's some talk about the fact that they're not quite in agreement about how much of a cut they're going to take from credit card transactions.
Yeah, and sometimes these very large Chinese companies can play hardball with these negotiations. It took Apple years and years negotiating with China Mobile, which is the world's largest wireless carrier, to actually get onto that network. And that was a brutal, long negotiation. This could be dragged out with the financial services, as you pointed out. But I think that, I'm predicting eventually that this kind of business, the monetization part of it, the selling of goods and services, ultimately will be Apple's biggest business, bigger than actually selling iPhones 5 years from now, something like that. Because I don't think they can continue to get the kind of margins they get now on smartphones forever. Those margins are going to have to come down at some point. Well, then, go ahead, Zoya. You had another comment on this?
No, I was just going to say that it's an interesting kind of debate that they must be having right now. I mean, it's the world's most profitable company at the moment, but where do you go from there? I guess it's the same debate that Google has. How do you grow search when you've got 90-something% of the market? And yeah, you end up having to diversify your revenue streams.
Yeah, you do. And China always saves them. They grow and grow and grow. And everybody says, well, I can't keep growing. And all of a sudden they have this another amazing quarter. And if you look at the fine print, it's, rapid growth in China. And they're building Apple stores as fast as they possibly can in China, all over the country. So, yeah, they're really, really targeting China. And why wouldn't they? Snapchat yesterday rolled out a new feature called Story Explorer that's supposed to provide different perspectives on major events. The feature will show a curated collection of snaps posted to live stories, and they'll be viewable by swiping through the different perspectives. The feature is available only to users for now in Los Angeles and New York. Let's take a look at Snapchat's video.
Snapchat stories celebrate the power of different perspectives. Sometimes a particular point of view grabs your attention. You just have to experience more. Today, you will. Simply swipe up on a snap to explore a moment from every angle.
All right, so Zoya, this is basically what they're doing so they don't have to have hashtags controlling this kind of thing. They make it sound like Rashomon or something like that, this sort of advanced thing where you're going to look at everything from a different angle. In fact, part of their video showed, multiple angles of the same physical thing happening. I think it's more likely that this will be just another curated list of related stories, and may not be as exciting as they're saying. But I don't know. Are you a Snapchat user?
I used it on occasion. I know when I first downloaded it, it was all the rage. But I find actually, and I don't know if other people are finding the same thing, but certainly my friends have sort of stopped using it now that the novelty has worn off. I'm not seeing as much content on there right now, although I know that certainly there's talk about various announcements and breaking news happening on Snapchat. Maybe I'm just of the wrong generation.
Yes, and I'm 2 or 3 generations removed from the right generation myself. So, and of course, you're in Belgium. I'm in California. I'm in north of San Francisco. So neither of us is in New York or L.A. So if you are in New York or L.A., you the TNT viewer and audience member, and you've tried Snapchat Story Explorer feature, drop us a line at tnt@twit.tv and let us know what it was like to use. We're curious to hear from you and find out what this thing was really like. And if you want to take a video or something like that of it, that'd be great as well. Well, our TNT fan of the day is Henry Singer, who posted this selfie on Twitter. Very, very nice. And we appreciate that, Henry. And if you want to take a selfie or any sort of picture about how you watch or listen to Tech News Today, please take a picture or the video or a boomerang or whatever and post it on Instagram, Google+, Twitter, or Facebook, and use the hashtag HowIWatchTNT so we can find it. Zoya, what are you working on these days? I know you had a big meeting on Friday. How did that meeting go, by the way?
Well, it's an interesting development that we've had. There is an in-principle agreement from the various EU bodies that they really need to expedite a few pieces of legislation that are being held up at the moment that might help with the fight on terror. So some examples, we've got a general data protection regulation that's making its way through the works at the moment, and that's a really big deal right now. So just today, there's a trialogue, which is a three-way discussion between the Commission, Council and Parliament, and we should know more soon about whether they're closer to agreeing on some of the more contentious issues.
Yeah, well, it's really an interesting time to be doing what you do, which is covering technology in Brussels, and I certainly look forward to all your coverage of all the angles of this, and all eyes are watching Europe right now, and Brussels, and France, and Belgium, etc. And so it really is an interesting time, in a bad way, but in an important way. So we're going to be sorting out lots of stuff, and we're all going to be talking about the peripheral technology issues, like whether or not encryption needs to be banned, whether or not, and of course, if you haven't listened to Security Now, one of our Twitch shows here, to hear Steve Gibson's view about the political impulse to ban encryption in consumer services like, Apple's iMessage and so on, you got to listen to it. He makes a case very, very strongly, and I'll summarize his case, which is that this sort of technology that secures our communications is simply math, and you can't illegalize math. That's his case. It's not like munitions where you can actually physically track weapons, or it's not like drugs. You can physically track the drugs as they cross borders and so on. This is simply math. These are just ideas that are out there and cannot be brought back. And so if you make it difficult for everyday people to use secure communication on their messaging services, on their email, then the terrorists will simply use the slightly more difficult methods, and everyone will be left vulnerable. And so it's a terrible idea, in Steve Gibson's expert opinion, for us to ban that kind of technology. So anyway, Zoya, I want to thank you so much for co-anchoring today, and we'll see you next time you're on the show.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Mike. I'll see you soon.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye. You can subscribe to Tech News Today on iTunes, and you can choose another way to subscribe at twit.tv/TNT. You can watch us live every weekday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1700 UTC at twit.tv/live, and you can follow us on Twitter at Tech News Today TV. Also, don't miss our other news show, Tech News Tonight, at 4 p.m. Pacific every weekday, and that is the Tech News Today. The show is produced by Jason Cleanthus and edited by Anthony Nielsen. My name is Mike Elgan. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow.